That's a profound question, though.
I mean, it's been answered. I do want to, because it doesn't seem that we're going to get to it. I wanted to pull a question. You talked about the youth vote. I wanted to pull a question from the previous panel, and, you know, who's got questions for my answers? So I wanted to pull something, and it's about identity politics, and I think I would be doing a disservice to myself and the tree from which I grow if I didn't make one thing clear. It seems as if too often we conflate a perversion of identity politics with what identity politics is and where it came from. Barbara Smith, the Combahee River Collective, Audre Lorde, Barbara Smith, who has endorsed our Senator Sanders, right?
That's right.
Is the person one of the first people to coin that phrase. And what it talked about is that my identity allows me to move in the world or restricts me from moving in the world in certain ways, right? And that the oppressions, the twin, quadruple oppressions that we all face are exhibited and are expressed and are felt differently as a black woman, as a lesbian, as a queer person, as a black man, that oppression doesn't always look the same. The wellspring of what identity politics in the tradition of the Combahee River Collective is talking about is deeply embedded in a black, radical, feminist, socialist agenda that says we need all of us, we need to come to the table. It doesn't look the same. The thing that brought us to the table does not look the same. Your poverty is a little different than my poverty. Your harassment, your assault is different than mine. But we are at this table, and it's because of those differences that our movement has the colors and the beauty and the representations that it has. That is what identity politics is. The perversion of identity politics is a version of representation, right? That capitalists have said that one of you, and because you are one of you, and now you're at the table with us, that all of you all should shut up. Because Jay-Z is on the cover of the magazine with Warren Buffett. That means that you all have made it, right? Or that sectarianism, that because you are a group of blank, you all only care for your interests. That is not what identity politics was, and it is being expressed and discussed as representation or a perversion of an identity politic. And so when the Democratic Party is repulsed by a perversion of identity politic, it tricks us into then championing, no, we're not for identity politics. The trueness of identity politics is rooted in a black radical, black feminist, black socialist tradition that says that all of us are needed at the table, and we come to the table because maybe slightly different reasons, right? But we have to acknowledge those reasons, not as a detriment or an impediment, but as a reason, as an exciting development in our movement when we come together. So I just wanted to talk about it's being weaponized, but that is not being weaponized. A perversion of it is being weaponized, and we're also just talking about representation sometimes.
May I
Very important. So there are neoliberal versions of identity politics.
Yes.
Which are hegemonic in the Democratic Party.
Yes.
Yep.
There are democratic socialist versions or revolutionary versions, which the Democratic Party establishment is highly fearful of.
Right.
Yes.
Right.
But in the end, back to solidarity.
Right.
See, solidarity is like a jazz orchestra, not a military band.
Yes.
Everybody's got to raise their voices, bouncing up against those other voices, recognizing that the aim is to increase the collective performance without losing sight of the specificity of who we are.
Oh, yeah.
Not just as groups,
Yep.
but as individuals.
Yep.
Most of us have multiple identities inside our own souls.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
We haven't even got outside of your ego yet, let alone Thanksgiving dinner. All kind of identities bouncing up against each other. But the question is, in the end, what is the moral content?
Yes.
What's the spiritual quality of who you are as a human being? What kind of political consequences will flow? Will it accent what the Hebrew scripture was about in terms of the steadfast love for the orphan, widow, fatherless, motherless, poor, persecuted, subjugated, and oppressed? And then the analysis of empire, of capitalism, of any form of domination. We had communist projects that were full of domination, full of regimentation. You see, we don't know of any human social system that has been, in some sense, shot through with domination. But radical democracy is always a cure for less democracy if we can awaken in such a way that we're willing to come together in the name of that large solidarity Sister Piper was talking about.